Hey punks, Chaotic here.
And you got figured here in the producer chair.
Welcome to Beyond the Pit, the show where we talk about music, life, and mental health issues directly with artists, experts, and survivors. Joining us for today's edition of Beyond the Pit, Aidan Kelly from Blue Nicotine. Figured, give him the rundown.
Hey punks, just a reminder, you can find all this and all of our Beyond the Pit interviews on the official RockMental YouTube channel. Also, you can find them on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Also, be sure to follow at RockMental Official on pretty much all of the social media platforms to get notified when the latest Beyond the Pit episode drops. Chaotic?
All right, let's get to it. Aidan Kelly is the force behind Blue Nicotine, which he founded in 2019. They have a raw and clean alternative sound that leaves you both rocking out and feeling your feels at the same time. Based in Glasgow, Scotland, Blue Nicotine released their debut album Into the Blue in 2024. We featured this band in one of our first episodes of RockMental, and we've been fans ever since. So I'm so stoked and so excited to welcome Aidan Kelly to Beyond the Pit. All right, Aidan, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be on this with you.
Thanks so much. Hey, I gotta say, your music sort of snuck up on me. So I'm more of like a metalhead. You know, I listen to Metallica and I got my Led Zeppelin, sure, Motorhead, those kind of guys. But Fading came up on my playlist, and it just like, whoa, what is this? And so I immediately put it on repeat. And so it was so cool, man. But so it's awesome to talk to you and kind of get into it in your music, man. So this is cool.
Absolutely, yeah. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad you guys reached out to me, and seeing the music being included on the show, was so cool, so cool. I'm glad you found it.
Yeah. Oh, hey, well, I don't know if to thank the algorithm or just the whatever gets the music out, but
No, just it's one of those things, isn't it? You never know how the algorithms work on Spotify or whatever, and I'm glad that it I'm glad that it showed face one day, decided to appear. That's awesome, man.
yeah, for sure. Cool. So, reading your bio and kind of looking into you, man. I know Blue Nicotine started kind of off as like a project of yours. Like you play a bunch of different instruments, right? So, I guess talk about like how all that came together, how you started writing music, and then like how you met the guys to form the band, and talk about like what kind of how did Blue Nicotine become to be?
Okay. So I started Blue Nicotine in 2019. I believe it was in November. And we ended up playing our first gig with a couple of session musicians, or I ended up playing it with a couple of session musicians in December, just before Christmas that year. And really, since then till now, we've just been, full steam ahead as hard as possible. But initially, some of these songs are probably upwards of like 15 years old.
Oh
Like
wow.
some of these songs I've written years ago, and yeah, in and out of bands, and it just didn't gel with that band. But I always kept them in my back pocket, knowing that they might happen one day. So I was in a band years ago. It didn't quite. Um, it just kind of fell apart, but nothing bad. It ran its course, and so I spent a few years just sitting myself and just writing as much as possible. And that's how a lot of these songs that you hear now on the album and just in general were formed. It's just me in my bedroom in my mum's house, just annoying the neighbors, playing as loud as possible. Um, and at that time, I didn't actually sing. I've only been singing probably for 5 or 6 years. So that was new. I didn't actually I thought it was just going to be a lot of the songs, like Placebo Effect you were talking about, that actually started out as an instrumental song. There was no vocals, nothing. It was just pure instrumental as a sort of soundtrack for like a film. Um, so yeah, started on The Voice, worked on it as hard as possible through lockdown and everything. And then decided, we've done this a few years by myself. I hooked up with some of my closest friends, and they're now permanent members of the band as well now. So I have that extra backup and support from them, which I've not had since the beginning. So we feel like more of a unit now. But I feel it was important for myself in the beginning just to get everything out from me, everything that was in my head, and I was happy to do it. Played drums, guitar. One of my friends played bass, and then obviously I sang and wrote the songs. So that's us now.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's awesome. I mean, I gotta say, you definitely have a very unique sound that, at least for us, we're like, okay, this sounds like, this band, but not really. But they sound more like this band. Like, we try not to pigeonhole, but we're also trying to like, okay, make these connections, right? Um, I don't want to,
Yeah,
just kind of stab in the
totally.
dark here. Like, who are your influences, like growing up, or like who do you say really influenced the sound of Blue Nicotine?
So guitar wise, um, I was very heavy into blues growing up. So like Gary Moore, from Thin Lizzy, and obviously did his own stuff. Um, I remember seeing it was an old Marshall amplifier DVD that my dad got me,
Nice.
and we just watched it on repeat, and just seeing the playing just blew my mind. Then I got introduced a lot through my dad as well. He's a guitarist as well. He's a blues guitarist. So he introduced me to like Appetite for Destruction, and
Yeah.
then I just went down a Guns N' Roses rabbit hole for years. I think Alone Together has a lot of influence, Guns N' Roses influence in there. Um, but mainly just guitar wise, it would be Gary Moore slash, and probably um, Jeff Beck,
Okay. Yeah.
I would say. They're like my kind of three, and Jimi Hendrix kind of goes without saying. But in terms of a band's sound, um, 30 Seconds to Mars always resonated with me.
Oh yeah.
Um, and probably Ooh, Foo Fighters, I would say. Just the kind of the large the large rock songs, but um, they have a story to them,
Yeah.
and they still have these little sweet bits in it. It's not always foot to the floor like rock. Um, it's a great question. That's probably the main ones, and then a lot of like bands in the mid 2000s, like Taking Back Sunday,
Yeah.
and I guess a bit of My Chemical Romance back in the day. But I would say they're the main solid ones. And then now, I don't know if you've heard of an artist called Sam Fender. He's from Newcastle in the UK.
Think so. I think so. I think
Sam Fender.
yeah.
I take a lot of influence from him. I think just vocal wise, um, and Youngblood from the UK as well. Uh, I think that's a good mix. But yeah, it changes a lot. But I would say they're the staples.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you can hear the sort of diversity in all the songs really in Into the Blue, right? Like Placebo Effect has its awesome
Hmm.
guitar picking, and the chord progression is very flowing. And then you get into like a more anthem like Alone Together, and that one's just
Yeah.
rocking, right? And then you get into Fading, and it's just so
Hmm.
emotional and so you know careful, and it's so awesome to kind of just see that evolution, right? Because like a lot of artists just kind of, like you said, pedal to the
Yeah.
metal. It's just kick ass in every single song, and we'll get through it. But just kind of going through your
Yeah.
entire album has just been awesome because you get a lot of everything. And so definitely, like you said, Foo Fighters, you said 30 Seconds to Mars, definitely hear all that. But what I like is that you've really turned it into your
Hmm.
own, turn it into your own sound, and kind of
Yeah.
built this thing, I guess. Talk about, so what did that process look like? How did you, in the studio, figure out, okay, I want the, this chorus to sound like this, or like, what, I want the bass pickup to come out this way, like, so what's sort of your, like, your music making mojo, if you will?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, firstly, I really appreciate that. That means a lot. That the sound feels unique and sounds unique. I think that's one of the things that people they struggle to kind of put, like, when it comes to putting us on support gigs or maybe on a tour or something, because we can kind of support a lot of different bands, whether it's a kind of lighter rock band or a heavier rock band, which I think is great. It leaves such a wide scope. But it's just funny trying to when people try and find a sound that we sound like. I think a lot of people struggle, and I struggle as well. I think that was kind of the point, is to like make a big cocktail of everything. Um, so it's funny you say that, because everyone says that, like, I have no idea where to put you, but it feels like it's your own sound. So that's awesome. I think I would say it starts with a guitar line, and then I usually tend to find the vocal line within the guitar. Um, so Alone Together, for example, the riff at the beginning, I I used to play the vocal line as a guitar line, and then I was like, oh, that would sound really cool, as a vocal line. And then I had that other riff in my back pocket for the beginning. Um, but I like to play on acoustic, literally just pick it up and play random things. Some sound dreadful, some sound really good. Some I'm like, I need to record it right now. um, but ultimately, it's just been like myself, like recordings just on my phone, and then I'll take it to just a little basic demo, and then obviously for the album, that's all I had. We went to the studio. It was just myself and my friend Cal. Um, he We've known each other since we were like 10 years old, and he works at this studio. So it was just the two of us that just worked on the record, um, up in the Highlands in Scotland, just in the mountains. It was great. And that's honestly as simple as it is. I just come up with some sort of idea, whether it's bad or not. There's always, no idea is a bad idea, is the way I try and look at it. Um, and then just see where it kind of takes me over weeks and months. But like I say, a lot of these songs are very, very, very old. Some I wrote when I was like 14 or 15 years old. So it's been pretty weird, because they're old to me, but they're new to everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool to, understand kind of like how the time and the care it takes to create a song, and then to make a collection of songs into an album, like, is even more time. And I think a lot of fans
Hmm.
take that for granted, like, a lot of artists come out with an album, it's like, okay, when's the next one coming out? It's like, well, it took a few years, to get the sound
Yeah.
right. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. So that's awesome how you
Yeah.
go through that. But definitely want to make it where it's your music and your art is coming out the way you want it. So that's so cool.
I do feel that I'm glad that I did everything on my own till this point. because it felt like it was just everything in my head that had to come out. And I was lucky that I got to be able to put it in song form, which was obviously massively therapeutic as a human being. But also, I found it a lot easier to capture what was in my head and what ideas I had to put it to record. Literally just doing it by myself, because that was just the headspace I was in at that point, and I'm glad that it's gotten to this stage now where I've built a foundation for myself first and foremost, that I can now start to open that up a bit more, which is exciting to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Fading and Placebo Effect were they're on my permanent playlist. I mean, they're just so awesome, two songs. I mean, the line that gets me every time in Placebo Effect is the chorus. You talk about not sitting vacant because the
Uh-huh.
thoughts run your mind.
Mhm.
What's that line about? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just so curious about, like, where did that chorus come from? What was the message that you're trying to tell listeners? You talk about a lot of things that are on your mind. That one's just, wow, how heavy. Like, that's so cool. But
Yeah.
talk about what's that about?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's more or less, it's a kind of nice way, or actually, it's more a kind of intense way of saying to yourself to kind of get up and move, despite how hard it can be, as we all know. Because I guess some action's better than no action, right? So, especially when your mind is feeling like a sort of, a circus, it's almost like try and do something about it before it gets too much. And that's kind of revisited later on at the end of the song. And the lyrics are, call it time when the sun starts to drain from your eyes. And I talk about the sun draining from your eyes because at that point it would be too late. You've let something take over, or you've gotten into a different mindset, sort of thing. So that's the kind of message through the song, is to, I guess, not in a sort of, yes, you have to do something about it, because it's not as easy as that, but it's a positive thing. It's an encouragement line. And then it's obviously talks about effects start to grow. I wonder if they'll show. And that's just kind of about, obviously we're all in our minds, and it's very easy to get wrapped up there. But a lot of people start to worry if their friends and family start to notice, or if they think they're acting different, I guess. So that just kind of explores that, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And we talk a lot about mental health here at RockMental, as you know. And so, using the power of music and your
Mhm.
lyrics just to kind of, open up that conversation and really, you know, put some words into some emotions, because I think that's for a lot of people it's hard to do. And so I mean, everything you described
Yeah.
is just so real, and I think can connect with a lot of people. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on in people's heads, and it can manifest, in different ways, in like addiction and depression, and then even some of this self-hate
Mhm.
talk, right? And um, so I mean,
Mhm.
thank you, for
Yeah.
doing that and including those messages in your music, because it is important, man. It is so hard. Life is hard, right? And for some people it's even harder.
Yeah.
And so being able
Mhm.
to connect with music, I think, it
Yeah.
helps people sort of understand what's going on in their brains and their souls, and hopefully find a way
Yeah.
out. So thank you for that. Um, and one, just talk about, like,
Yeah.
why is it important for you to include some of these things in your music?
Again, thank you very much. I felt it was important to get that message across. in my own way. You know, a lot of people, you can write songs about, say, mental health or just life in general, but a lot of it, I wanted to say it my way, in the way that I think that people will resonate with it, you know. So it's my pleasure, you know. I'm glad that it's out there now, and I feel that, to be honest, a lot of the, so like Fading, for example, that in my mind it feels like it ties into Placebo Effect, because Fading's like a reminder, like if someone feels lost, it's like a reminder of like, oh, I feel like that too. You can relate to that. I'm someone that can relate to that. So it's like you're listening to this song and the person that's singing the song is like drilling into your head that it's like, you know, there's two of us, sort of thing. And I feel that putting these messages into the songs is, I felt it was important to do so, just because I've had a lot of strange struggles with mental health just throughout life in general, but especially those 5 years since starting Blue Nicotine. Just a lot happened, good and bad, you know, but things that influenced the album as a whole. So I guess like Into the Blue is literally an entire story about my own last 5 years, or last 5 years, sorry.
Yeah.
Which is quite funny. But I just felt it was important to hit on all the points of things that I've experienced, purely just to make sure people know that they can relate to this without it being like a big sit down session. You know, you can feel it through music and get reminders through music. It doesn't have to be such an intense therapy session almost.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man.
If that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
yeah, no, it makes total sense. I mean, there's a lot happening, and you know, thank you for doing that. I think, you know, that's probably a reason your music comes off so authentic, so raw, so relatable. Because yeah, I mean, we all go through it. I mean, Alone Together, I was jamming it out on the way over here, and I think it's kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
if you want to say there's like a order of things, I think it's kind of like, that's the, hey, we're in this together, you know, like you may feel like you're alone, you may feel like, you know,
Yeah.
you're struggling by yourself, but we're in this together because we're all kind of feeling it. But you
Yeah.
know, if that's the interpretation, I don't want to
Yeah.
put, you know, words in your mouth or anything. um
But I mean, that's the amazing thing, is people can. I love to keep things as open as possible.
yeah,
Like I'll put my own interpretation on it, and I'm happy to share, obviously, what the song means to me or what I was trying to say. But I love when people find their own. Um, you're, in my eyes, with music, you're meant to take what you want from it, right? So it feels like that's what makes it personal to people, or the listener. So there's a lot of, you are correct with that. That is right.
yeah.
But it's, you know, it's sort of saying that, are we better, like we're better together than better alone, essentially.
Oh, oh yeah.
And this sort of, the Alone Together especially, is a sort of I call it the middle finger, like the big middle finger to people who abuse power, and whether I leave that open because it's like that could be someone's boss at work, or you know, a kind of toxic relationship, or you know. But that's the kind of premise for that song. But ultimately, that chorus is, "You're right, yeah." That is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's that line, right? Like, you know, fuck those that do that, right? I like that line. So
Yeah,
absolutely, because yeah,
yeah, totally,
and,
totally.
and I mean, those people, you know, could be the reason that there's mental health issues. You know, like you said, a toxic
Mhm.
relationship. a significant other that's maybe not supportive, a boss. I know I had my struggles with work and, those type of people. And it takes a toll. And
Mhm.
so absolutely, man, like, sometimes you just gotta throw the middle finger and say, fuck it,
Absolutely.
and do your own thing.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, that is exactly right, and it's funny that that song was kind of influenced by my kind of working experience, through previous jobs, just, uh, and for multiple reasons, but a lot of the time, just a lot of power abuse, when it comes to management and people kind of throwing their power around when it's just not relevant, 90% of the time. Um, so that's a personal one for me in that sense. But yeah, I guess it can relate to like lots of things. But for me, I was like, yeah, fuck this, man. Fuck all of you, whatever. Um,
No,
but sometimes it has to be said, like you say.
yeah. You know what? I gotta tell you that was pretty much my story. I had a job. It was a really good job,
Yeah,
and then some new people started coming in, and it started changing and evolving, and then yeah, just people just started not being cool, and my role shifted without me knowing it, and it got me. I was in a state of burnout, of anxiety,
mhm,
of just trying to keep up, and like it was bad. And my wife basically said, you got to quit this job because it's eating at you. I remember spending weekends just on the couch, just sitting there,
yeah,
feeling it. And so, yeah, I mean, I quit the job and, just kind of spent a few months
mhm,
just figuring out like, what the fuck am I going to do? Or who am I? And, that's kind of how we started RockMental, honestly, because I was listening to a lot of music to kind of
yeah,
help. I had the dusty old acoustic guitar in my room, and I finally picked it up after like 10 years. Started jamming out, and realized what, music is a powerful tool, and I think others can feel it
mhm,
and use it to at least recognize some of their own mental health challenges. And so that's what we're here. So I totally resonate that whole
yeah,
experience with you, man. Like it sucks. It sucked. And that's basically what I did. I just threw
yeah.
the middle finger and said, I'm out. And it was probably one of the most liberating things I've done, you know?
That is honestly, strangely enough, that's the exact experience that I had as well. Um, just a lot of uh, a lot of kind of uncertainty at that point in life, and the job itself was giving me a lot of anxiety on top of anxiety in general. So a lot of added stress and feeling anxious that I didn't need. And it was liberating is the word that you use. That is exactly what describes it, because I felt it felt like a fresh start, and I think that is ultimately, like you say, for starting rock metal, which I'm very glad exists. That's essentially how Blue Nicotine exists as well, because when I left that job, this is when this band started, and then I just spent, you know, just under 6 months just getting everything in order. So we both have essentially the same story and experience, which is wicked.
Yeah. Hey, awesome, man. I mean, it sucks that it happened, but I'm glad that, we were able to use that experience and turn it into something positive, right? And hopefully others out there who are experiencing,
Yeah,
the same thing can also do it and find their passion and find something that they really want
yeah,
to go into, or find an old thing, an old
mhm,
hobby or old passion that they can find healing and finding peace with. So it's really cool, man.
yeah.
Really love what you're doing. Your message is awesome. And I mean, you're just one cool motherfucker, I guess, for lack of better words. But
Thank you. I really
that
appreciate that.
just came out, but
Likewise to yourselves, you know. No, that's you've made my night. You've made my day.
awesome.
I really appreciate that, and I'm glad that you yourselves are not only providing, you know, you're providing a way for yourselves and bands to um talk about, you know, the message behind their music and everything, but also you yourselves get to dive into it as well, and talk about your own experiences and stuff, which is great. But that's why I was very glad and happy to be involved with this, because I think everything you guys are doing is wicked. So yeah, we need more. We need more of this kind of stuff in music, I think, and in life in general, just to show there's support through so many things, whether it's music or talking or whatever, you know, which is essentially what's happening here. You know, it's two things mixed, which is perfect.
Hey, no, thank you for talking with us. Thanks for sharing your story. So I know you're have some gigs coming up. You're going to be performing sort of throughout the UK there, right? Tell fans where they can find your music and where they can find your next show.
Yeah. Okay, so we are on every single platform that you can stream music. It's also available to buy on our website, which is just www.bluenicotine.com. You can buy our album on a CD if you would like, and it can be signed, which is cool. And also we're playing. Yeah, we have a hometown show coming up on Saturday. This Saturday, we're playing the Cat House in Glasgow. And then we've got a few festivals coming up as well throughout the summer, and hopefully finishing this year with a big headline show in our hometown, and also a tour to kind of get us out there more, which would be nice, which we're working on just now. So that can be found on our website as well. But we are everywhere, every single place possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, your social media is also really cool. Your Instagram and your TikToks, their videos are like really awesome because you're talking about your music and you're putting it out there. So we're following you. We'll give you some likes and make sure that everyone knows where to find you.
Totally. Yeah, all the usual: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, Facebook, whatever people use. Instagram's probably the number one for us, that we have the largest following on that. But if you want to see some cool vibey pictures and photos, then that is that is probably the place. But yeah, absolutely everywhere.
That's cool.
And I really appreciate that. Thanks for the support. Likewise with yourselves, obviously.
Absolutely. Cool. I mean, Aidan, thanks so much for joining us. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You got some supporters here at RockMental. Thanks for what you're doing to, you know, raise awareness for mental health and just, you know, keep kicking ass, dude. Your music rocks, you know, and, you know, just wishing you the best of luck and, you know, don't be a stranger. We're going to keep you coming over here to RockMental.
I really appreciate that. Likewise with your platform, it's wicked. Keep doing you guys as well. It's a pleasure to be involved, and thanks for having me on. Of course, you know, it's been great to chat with you guys and virtually meet, which is great. But yeah, I really appreciate it. Likewise with yourselves, and hopefully I get over to the US ASAP to actually meet yourselves.
Hell yeah. We will
And
be
yeah,
there.
man, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Now we have links to Blue Nicotine's music pages and social media sites on rockmental.com. Please check them out, give them a follow, show them support. They're really awesome.
Like we mentioned before, you can find all this and all of our Beyond the Pit interviews on the official RockMental YouTube channel and on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Chaotic?
All right, thanks for joining us for today's edition of Beyond the Pit. Join us next time as Mayhem talks to a really awesome band that's also from Europe. We'll give you a heads up on social media, but only if you follow us at RockMental Official on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. All right, chaotic out.